Today the Chamber has invited Mayor Robin Lawbaugh, Robert Patrick, the Director of Public Service, and Matt Hiscock, Director of Public Safety from the City of Wadsworth, to present a State of the City address. So without further ado, please welcome Mayor Robin, Robert, and Matt. And anyone else from the city that wants to come up.
Well, before we get started with the State of the City, we're going to do something a little bit different this year. Janie and I were talking, and we thought it would be fun for me to present the key to the city the same day that we do the State of the City. We generally do that at the Rosies, but with the Rosies being a little bit different time this year, as I said, we thought it'd be kind of fun to present that at this time. So without further ado, I wanted to mention a little bit about the key to the city. For those of you who may not be familiar, this particular award is given to an individual who has, through their acts of service and contributions over the years, is honored for the key to the city for the things that they've done throughout the year. The individual that's going to be receiving it this year has donated her time freely over the year, not only beautifying our community, but also beautifying the surrounding areas. She's probably not going to be very happy with me because, as I mentioned, she is a quiet and very unassuming individual. And so what I'm going to do is announce her name, but I'm going to let her sit at her seat for a while to get her composure a little bit, and then I'll have her come up. But this year's recipient for the 2000, and she's looking at me, 2020 Key to the City is Paulette Grubb. And very, very deserving. Paulette is seated here with her husband Jim as well, and they have two children, Courtney and John, and they also have two grandchildren. But for those of you who do not know Paulette, let me tell you a little bit about some of the things that she's done over the years. You may have been familiar with her because of her works recently with the downtown mural project. If you go down Vixler Alley, you'll see 5 beautiful historic paintings or murals that she has done. And she's actually in the process of providing 2 additional ones that we'll be able to enjoy this next year here. And so you may know her through that. You may have known her or her works from the bicentennial. 2014, we had actually in this very room a bicentennial ball. And Paulette was on the decorating committee, and she came up with the idea of having 10 panels painted depicting different storefronts of our downtown, and they were absolutely beautiful. She intended that these were just going to be for that one night. Now, first of all, I'm thinking, how can you put all that time and energy in for one night? But that's her giving heart. But so many of us looked at that and we thought, we've got to preserve these somehow. And so very carefully, we took them, and actually, if you are any time in the senior center, the great majority of those panels are in the senior center. Janie was lucked out in the chamber office. There's actually a couple of the panels there as well, but they're beautiful. Not only did she do all those panels that evening, but this whole room was transformed, and the table decorations and the decorations throughout the room were just exquisite. And so she was definitely a moving force for that. So that's another way that she's benefited the community. What you may not know about her, though, is that she has brightened the lives of many children in greater Medina area with her paintings over the past 30 years. Hundreds of her murals, large and small, can be found in private residences, businesses, schools, and hospitals across the region. She may be best known for her large canvases or murals that are in Akron Children's Hospital or at Satellite Campus in Youngstown. Many years ago, her son Jonathan was ill and was spending a considerable amount of time in the hospital, and that gave her a lot of time there and also gave her some extra spare time to do something, and she wanted to do something to contribute, and so she started to paint, and she hasn't stopped. So what a tremendous offering that she has. One of the awards that she received stated this: "Through her strokes of her brushes, Paulette transforms cold, sterile treatment rooms into jungles and bear caves, creating a friendly environment for children who visit." She certainly doesn't stay idle. In fact, she just completed 4 murals that are for the pediatrics of Akron. In 2017, she received an individual award for service of the arts for the Medina County Arts Council. I actually attended that and was able to view her, probably just a portion of her portfolio, but it was voluminous and amazing. She's been featured in Ohio Magazine, or her works have been featured there. In the community, she contributes greatly. She's, for example, a very active member, I think you're treasurer this year, for the Bud and Bloom Club. I've mentioned that club before because they do so much for our downtown and have the beautiful flowers and baskets, and they are the ones that decorate the gazebo each year, the entrance signs when you come into the community, so very active member of that community. She serves on the Shade Tree Commission for the community. She donates her time and materials for Wadsworth Sacred Heart and several other area-wide organizations. I know she's also a board member for the Medina County Arts Council. So without any further ado, I'm going to have Paulette just come up real quick. As I said, she doesn't know that. She thought she was coming here for something else, and she said, "Well, I have to speak," and I'm like, "Oh, no." But come on up, Paulette.
I'm better at painting than speaking, so. I grew up in Norton, and Silver Creek Park is part of our farm that was bought for the park. So I always remember my dad saying that, the Silver Creek mine was right near our property. So, and I remember coming into Wadsworth and getting shoes at Ladrax, and I remember going to Isley's for ice cream and Franco's for pizza, Ben Franklin's. I went my first year of Kent State, I went to Kent Extension. So I went to classes at Trinity Church, and our student union was in the basement of the Civic Center. So Wadsworth's always been a part of growing up, even though I lived in Norton. And when we moved in '90 and we built a house, it's like we built because we knew the school system was good, but what I didn't know was how great the community was. And I've met so many people, so many great leaders that have been really good to me. And I just want to, art has been my passion, and it's so nice to give back to the city. And I appreciate everything that's been done for me, and I like to give it back to you. So I hope they enjoy it. I hope they can walk down that alley and see the little history of Wadsworth. And I just appreciate all the effort that goes into the mural project. Adrian and Randy and Roger and Tom taking pictures. But at any rate, right there. Everybody's been so helpful on this project, and I just think it's so nice that we have the support of the city for this. And I was happy to donate my time back to the city for this project. Thank you so much. I appreciate this award.
Well, for quite an unassuming woman, she did an amazing job just now. Thank you, Paulette, for those great words. Okay, so now on to the state of the city. First off, I've got to mention something. It says here that Robin and Robert and Matt are giving this presentation. And poor Matt, I got a text this morning, and he was not feeling really well yesterday. Well, he was really not feeling well today, and so he's not here today. So you get to hear more of me than you might have otherwise had. But anyways, without any further ado, let's see here. I thought we'd talk a little bit at the beginning here, a little bit about the financial condition for the city. Many of you may not be aware, but we have over $100 million budget, and that, of course, includes our capital. But that is a substantial budget for a community of our size. And it's mainly due to the numerous services that we provide, many of which are not customary for municipalities to provide, but we certainly take that and do that with pride. But because of that, we certainly are very mindful of the funds that come in and the expenditures that we have. Our goal each and every year is to have an overall balanced operating budget, which we were able to accomplish again this year. Some years are easier and some years are harder, but we strive to do that each and every year. We also strive to have positive balances in each of our funds. We also strive to hold a little bit to cash, and we do that as well. One of the things I wanted to highlight here is our finance team, who does a tremendous job of keeping a good eye on those in the accounting of our funds and the funds that come in and the expenditures that are going out, as well as the investment of those funds that are not needed at this particular time. And we have here Kathy Fix, who is our auditor, and Lisa Jones, who is our treasurer right here up front. And they and their team do a tremendous job, as I mentioned, in this effort. Shown here is a little bit of a proof of that, in that this is the fourth consecutive year that they have received the Auditor of State Award with distinction. And this is basically excellence due to the financial reporting, due to the CAFR, which is our comprehensive annual financial report. And only 5% of the public entities that are audited each and every year receive this, and so it's quite an accomplishment. Let's talk a little bit about economic development. We have been growing steadily. We are consistently listed in the top 3 as far as growth for Northeast Ohio. We have the census coming up pretty soon, and so we'll be looking forward to that. We want to make sure everybody fills out that card or takes a note of that card that's going to be coming in the mail in the next few weeks. As was mentioned last year for the State of the City, we were putting additional efforts towards economic development. And because of that, we wanted to hire a full-time economic development director, which we did. And here we have Jim Gray sitting here in the front. Many of you have met him and are meeting with him on your various needs for economic development. Also, he is assisted by Aiton Anderson here at the front. She also spends half of her time in economic development assisting Jim, and then she also does all the marketing for the city as well. 2019 was a big year. We had a lot of development going on, a lot of capital improvements. The Village of St. Edwards is noted here. This was a multi-year project, and I actually mentioned them last year because they were still in process, but they opened in May. This was a $22 million endeavor. And of course, they are the ones that provide independent living, but also assisted living and memory care, and have been a wonderful partner to the city. Additionally, we have here Auto Oasis Car Wash, located at the north end, made a substantial investment and provide a great new service to the city. Trillium Creek, located here last spring, providing dermatology services, full-service dermatology services. They're in the complex at the north end, and provided 30 jobs coming into the community. Summa Health Systems. Summa Health Wadsworth Rittman facility here, the medical center facility here. They have been making steady improvements into their facility. Over the last 2 years, they've added $4.7 million of capital improvement and equipment. This year was not different. In fact, here pictured is the Summa Weight Management Facility. It's located on the entrance floor of their Founders Hall. It is a beautiful facility providing services for weight management. It was a $1.4 million investment, and we are thrilled that Summa chose, obviously system-wide they could have gone anywhere, but they chose Wadsworth to have that particular service, and we're very grateful to have it. Additionally, they added another service with a collaboration with the Medina County Health Department, located on the second floor of their main building. The Medina County Health Department added their second location, and once again we are thrilled that they chose Wadsworth to have that location, and that will be serving our citizens very, very well in the future. Accel Group, one of our manufacturers off of Quadrille Drive, they made a substantial investment in equipment this past year, $3.6 million, adding 18 employees along the process. Of course, we have a new McDonald's, which was a nice addition as well. Also pictured here is Dolce at the Strand, a great new addition to our downtown, adding some opportunity for enjoyment of refreshments. All right, coming in 2020, it's going to be a busy, busy year. I've estimated between, I'm going to say our recent projects and things that are coming up ahead, we're going to have $30 million plus of investment coming into the city. It's going to equate to over 130 new jobs and close to $5 million in additional payroll. Of the couple that I can mention, because we've been talking about it publicly, first of all, Roar Corporation is investing $13.6 million, and that's going to be in expansion, but particularly an equipment addition. They will be adding 60 new jobs for that endeavor, and that's going to be over the next 3 years. Radici Plastics, $4.1 million of additional dollars going into remodeling as well as equipment, and they're going to be adding 10 jobs. We're I'm going to say a few weeks away from being able to announce an existing manufacturer that has outgrown their present facility. They will be building on their own location, and this is going to be a 37,000 square foot addition, or a 37,000 square foot facility, and they'll be investing close to $2 million. And then we're probably a couple months away from being able to announce another one of our existing businesses that will be making a substantial investment into the community as well. We've also had a substantial amount of commercial interest, and this is both retail but also the service industry. And this is both for constructing new, but also locating into existing facilities that have vacant space. We recognize the importance of economic development. We recognize the jobs that it provides, the benefit of the services that are provided to each of you, and the citizens, and also certainly the revenue that's provided. And the city uses a variety of incentives, such as CRA agreements, community reinvestment agreements. We also have job creation grants, and we do a variety of things as far as marketing is concerned. In fact, we're just about ready to release a new video for economic development purposes, and so that will be neat. All right. I want to talk a little bit about our downtown, the heart of the city. We continue to have a great collaboration with our downtown organization, Main Street Wadsworth, under the helm of Executive Director Adrienne Krause, who's done a tremendous job, along with her host of volunteers. We can get a lot done with all of us working together as a team. Some of the things that we do collaborate with are certainly the events. We've mentioned the mural project. And here's a picture of Paulette with one of her murals. So the mural project, we work on economic vitality type projects, projects such as the Southwest parking lot, and Robert's going to be talking a little bit more about that project coming up. Really coming up is we have another project that we'll be working on, and that is a grant initiative. Main Street was the recipient of a $20,000 grant through Heritage Ohio, and the city is going to be matching that $20,000, and that grant will be able to be utilized for our businesses to improve their facades, the painting, awnings, and signage. And certainly the businesses will also have a matching component as well. But once again, another great thing to collaborate on to improve our downtown. Over the past few months, we've had 4 new businesses locate in the downtown, and in the next 6 months, we're going to have 5 additional businesses locate downtown. And those businesses are all either food and drink related or retail related, and so we'll have some great additional activity downtown. This past summer, we had a great initiative called America in Bloom. And this was another collaboration with Main Street, but also with one of our amazing organizations that I've mentioned today already, and that's the Bud and Bloom Club in Wadsworth. And actually, two of their members, Kay Bowman and Pam Douglas, chaired that particular initiative. Actually, Pam's here too. They chaired that particular initiative. And we benefited greatly as a city because we had two out-of-state individuals that have expertise in beautification of communities, and they looked citywide and gave us quite a packet of tidbits of things that we can do to improve and beautify and vitalize our community. And so that was a great initiative, and grateful to all involved. Also, Robin Kilbride, who brought the project to us and provided a grant as well. Well, lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about the downtown infrastructure project that I had actually announced last year during the State of the City. This project has experienced an extensive process over the past year, and as a reminder, it was prompted because basically we have some underground infrastructure that is in need of replacement. Actually, our water and sewer lines are over 100 years old. And so it is time to do a little bit of a replacement for that. Additionally, it has been almost 40 years since there has been a streetscape improvement. And so it was time for us to really give some thought to this. Our goal is to have a downtown project that adds to the already beautiful nature of our downtown, that it is let's say more safe for our pedestrians, safe and efficient for not only our pedestrians but also for our driving public. We want it to also be reflective of the culture and the nature of the downtown. We've had some great recommendations and suggestions. Robert's going to go into it, but we had a survey and we really got some wonderful comments from our community members. So we want it to be reflective of that. And we also want it to be able to serve our citizens for the next decades to come. And this project is at heart, it is an infrastructure project, and so it falls under let's say under the direction of our service director, Robert Patrick. And so I'm going to have him come up at this time to start his presentation and maybe give a little bit of an update as far as where we are in this infrastructure project, and we'll take it from there.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Janie and Joe and the board and all of you for coming today. You as business and business owners and business operators, hopefully you see that we have some similarities in common, that we as a local government act a little bit more like a business in a lot of ways. We have a lot of business operations that we compete out there with the private folks. Just like you competing for customers, we compete for businesses to attract them to the community. We compete to retain businesses. Jim does a great job of that. We also compete to provide a good, strong quality of life. When residents are looking for a place to go, we would love to welcome them to the community. There's a lot of different ways we try to do that through high-quality services, through having a very safe community. We were just, a safety ranking just came out. I saw last week we were in, I think, the top 30 in Ohio. Obviously you heard Paulette talk about the school systems, and I know to have a top-notch school system, something that Dr. Hill will be speaking on in a couple weeks or a couple months at the Chamber. I'm not sure if he'll actually be speaking or just show a video and take it easy, but that may be actually better for all of us anyways. But we also compete with other communities. We compete for grant funding. And so there's a lot of different ways that we're out there trying to do things the right way. As the mayor said, like a project like the downtown, we want to make sure that we have complete everyone on the same page, and we're doing things to position us downtown and the city to be successful for many generations to come. So I'll get into that in a little bit more detail here. I forgot to start my timer, so I might go a little bit over. Sorry for all of you. I'll first kind of start by going into a little bit of detail on what we did over this last year since the last time that we were here. Our first step was to find a consulting team that really matched who we are and help us through this process. So you can see that really detailed flow chart of all the number of meetings that we had. We have many meetings with our implementation committee. Who here is on the implementation committee? Raise your hand. We have about 25 folks that make up a lot of different, represent a lot of different organizations and people in the community. We have building and business owners that we've been meeting with. All of you that have been meeting, raise your hand. Great, great. Thank you for being here. We also have been talking to different stakeholder groups, and all of that culminated last year with the consultant coming down with a couple options that those groups decided to bring out forth to the public. So in December, we had a public meeting. This is some engagement that we had throughout the year with the communities, like on First Fridays and other ways. But that culmination of all that work came down to two different options. And if you remember, there's an A and a C. We wanted to go a little bit deeper to get feedback from the community. So we had a survey, public survey that we put together. It was meant to educate the public on the process and what the details of the plan was, but also to get feedback and engagement, because projects like this and things that we do aren't decided by 1 or 2 or 5 people in a room. We really want to do the best for the community. So it's real important to get that feedback. Who in here took the survey? Raise your hand. We had over 800 people do that, so thank you for your time. That was so valuable. We sent those results to the consultant team, and they took this and they really put that information into those final renderings. And the responses that we had was very consistent, as we did with the invitation committee and the building business owners and all the other focus groups, where the overwhelming majority supported that option C for the future of downtown. So this is what the final renderings look like. You may have seen those. We had a public meeting in February that we unveiled this, and then there's been some things that we've released. There's some other renderings out there. There's information on our website. We actually have the full results of all those surveys. We have everyone's comments that are anonymous on there, so you can see the feedback that we got from everyone. I'll point out a couple highlights of this project here and what this rendering shows. Like the mayor mentioned, number one, that underground infrastructure, upwards of 100 years old. So all those water, sewer, electric, communications, gas lines, those are all nearing the end of their useful life, and so they need to be replaced. With that, then we can go ahead and replace things on top, and we take a look whenever we do projects on how is the best way to do that for the future success. One item is parking. That came up quite a bit, and it was unanimous that everyone wanted to retain the full amount of parking we have, so this plan does that. Some parking may be shifted around a little bit, but it keeps the same amount of on-street and an off-street parking. You can see pretty clearly that there's a lane configuration here. There's one lane coming in, one lane exiting, and then a dedicated turn lane in the center of town. Really consistent with how you come into downtown. If you think about it, on all 4 areas, you actually have 2 lanes coming into downtown, but now it widens out. So the reduction of the one exit lane, the engineers said that we have enough capacity there for that. But that's something that they'll be firming up to make sure looking forward. What that does is that gives some more space for some public space. And that was the number one thing that the community had requested back in 2016 when we started the downtown planning, and again last year in 2019. Everyone wanted more space. So you can see there's a large green space there. The sidewalks are wider. That can really go into better business attraction. They can use that space more for outdoor cafes that are getting very popular, more space for folks to congregate for our special events. I was just talking to someone earlier. They said, wow, we were in another community, and it really hit me how we can really utilize all this space better for events. And ultimately creating a downtown that's unmatched and a downtown that can be more of a space that you want to come and visit. It was very important for everyone to keep those landmarks or those icons. And I think the consultant really hit the the nail on the head here by a unique design that would allow those 4 icons, the boy with the boot, the gazebo, the flag, and the Wadsworth clock, position those on the 4 corners, so now they are even more prominent, and they can pay proper heritage and respect for what they are there for. And so from wherever you're at in the square now, you'll be able to see those. So that was very unique. And then safety, like the mayor talked about, both the pedestrian and the vehicular safety. The alignment is going to allow for better vehicular safety. And then maybe it's not jumping out at you, but the pedestrian crosswalks will be shortened now. Instead of having to cross 2 or 4 lanes, you'll have to go only over 3. And then the mid-block crossings too. That distance is a lot shorter for folks to get across, so that'll help. With a project of this magnitude, it's projected right now preliminarily to be $10 to $13 million. There's been a lot of questions on how we're going to fund this. And so we've listed already 15 different funding sources. So it's a lot of different ways. We're talking about utility revenues and accounts. We're talking about grants. We've already received almost $1 million so far for the funding of this program. Street improvement monies. Outside borrowing is a method that we have that is a lot of times a good way to fund long-term projects, possible assessments, some savings. We've been saving for some things like you do at home. So we have a number of different ways. I guess one important to note is that we don't anticipate any raises in income tax to pay for this project. Although this may look like it's complete and it looks very pretty, there's a lot to be worked out. So over this next year, we're really going to get into the details now. We're going to be looking at underground, how big the lines are, where they actually go, how wide the actual streets are, how wide the sidewalks are, where the planters go, what goes in the planters, what types of street lights, what type of patio furniture, what type of materials. Do we use brick? Do we use concrete? All those different things are going to be worked out. We're going to be reaching out to all of you, again, to engage you, to be part of this process. And so next year, the goal is that we have all that detailed planning done and we can move on and start to put some shovels in the ground, and we'll be discussing that next year with hopefully some construction next year and the year after. Understand that construction like this can be difficult and inconvenience. We're going to do everything we can to help that process go as smoothly as possible. A project that we just finished up is with the Wetrusa Water Line down there in Wetrusa Street. That was a water line project that was funded primarily by the county through CDBG funding through the state. And one thing we did there was when the water line needed to be connected to the one on College Street, city engineer Vicki McCulley made the contractor come in and do that work on a Sunday because through our research, a lot of those businesses were closed on Sunday, and that seemed to be the most convenient time for them. So those are the things that the engineering department is trying to do to help out. Understand there's going to be inconveniences, but we're going to try to do everything we can. Can't always do things like that, but we're going to do the best to keep all of you in mind and keep your businesses flourishing. Right next door to the Wetrusa Water Line is the southwest parking lot that the mayor mentioned. You see a nice graphic rendering there that the consultants worked on. That is a project that you've been hearing for a couple years, but we have plans to get that finished here this late summer. You can see that northern portion is going to mimic that southern portion that was done in 2013. We've had a lot of good support from the building and business owners there. They are going to take advantage of improving some of their rear entrances as well to make that more of maybe a gathering space or more of a multi-use area into the future. We have some other infrastructure projects this year. As you can see, we have a culvert project. That's over the Holmesbrook Creek. That's on Seville Road, just south of 57. That sustained some damage a couple years ago in those heavy floods, as did the College Street culvert. This closure will not be as long as that closure was. We'll have more information coming soon, later this spring and early summer when that will happen. And then south of that at the airport, we're also going to be doing another paving project of the east-west runway. And that is primarily funded 95% by ODOT Aviation, similar to the main runway next door that was done back in 2016. So we're always trying to leverage our funding with outside sources. Another area that we try to leverage funding as much as possible is with our street improvement program. And as you can see, this is Lynn's Cove that was done last year. We have another almost $1 million street improvement program this year. That is due to the 0.1% income tax that was passed back in 2011. Almost $1 million comes in, and it goes right out into improving the streets. You can see that image on the left as a map of the city. That's all the streets that we have been able to do with treatment over the last 5 years, with either asphalt resurfacing, maybe concrete being converted to asphalt, or concrete slab replacements. And then on the right there, you can see this year's program. A number of streets, in particular, Lyman, Bird, Pine, Santee, Court, Chestnut to the east and south, Sunset, Virginia, Garfield, Rainbow Mill to the west, Stevenson and Browse Drives to the north. So anticipate sometime this spring that those will be done. Last year, we completed 2 exciting projects that are going to have long-term benefits to the City of Wadsworth. And this right here is the Wadsworth Generating Station. This is a 10.2 megawatt facility out at Holmesbrook Freed Park, actually. And there's a lot of benefits to this. This is, number one, going to help our electric system offset rising transmission and capacity costs. These units can also be cycled for an emergency outage situation if needed and provide backup power to a number of our customers. What do I mean by transmission and capacity cost? You know, Janie, I'd love to come back and spend a lunch on talking about these, but I'll give you a quick run through. I figured that would be the answer. These fund costs are comprising, last month they comprised 32.9% of our overall power bill, equals millions of dollars a year. These fees are passed on all to the users. They generate from, if you look at this nice chart up on the left, that's us. Down there on the bottom right, that's our generating power plants. So as a municipal electric system, we can control where we buy our power. There's a lot of benefits to that. We have part ownership in hydro facilities, natural gas facilities, windmill facilities, solar facilities outside of the city, landfill gas facilities, and we buy market power. So how they get to excuse me, how they get to the City of Wadsworth is through those transmission lines that you see when you're driving on the highway, those high, big transmission lines. Those are owned by investor-owned utilities. Those costs have gone up a lot over the last 10 years or so. Like I said, millions, actually billions of dollars are being spent on those on an annual basis. We agree that there's some improvements that are needed to keep the system up, but there's no oversight to those projects. So there's a guaranteed profit margin built in for all those utility, investor-owned utilities that put money there. So if you, as a business owner, where are you going to invest money? Probably right there. So we just think that that should be looked at a little bit better. So we're working with American Municipal Power to try to change that. But before we do that, what do we do to offset those costs? We spend millions of dollars to try to save millions of dollars, like the generating station there. So we built those, actually American Municipal Power built those here with Power Secure, a company that put the generators in. So we buy the power from AMP, American Municipal Power, and in turn they run in our peak demand seasons, so to keep that power here so we don't have to go out into the grid. Another project that is very similar to that is the solar field that you've seen down on Seville Road. There was an array, 21,000 arrays that were built on the 31 acres down there. That was built by a group called Ste A Energy Services. They bought the land, they built that, they installed those, they're going to maintain them. And then we get to be the benefit through AMP of buying the power through those arrays. Again, that's going to give us more renewable portfolio power in our portfolio. And it's going to help to offset those rising costs so they can be generated, that power can be generated on those peak days. We can use it here. We don't have to go outside. So really exciting projects. These are multi-million-dollar projects. They're going to be around for 20, 25 or more years in the city. So we're really proud to have those here. Projects like this and all the other ones that I talked about really take a lot of time and effort to get going, as you can imagine. And that's when I start to want to talk about our dedicated employees. Those things just don't happen overnight. And I want you to be aware that we have really high quality, high performing, and dedicated people. People like Mark Feller. He is our electrician in the electric department and really worked hard to oversee those projects, those large projects that we've never done here, to make sure that all that power translated and came onto our grid in an efficient manner. Folks like Bill Lyron Jr., the electric department and communications department general manager. I'll tell you a quick story about Bill and how the Wadsworth Electric Department can benefit you. We had an industrial customer, actually not in Wadsworth, but outside of Wadsworth, that had an outage by the investor-owned utility came out, 11 o'clock at night, saw they had something wrong, turned the power off, and left. They got an electrical engineering company to come out and take a look at it. They worked through the night, and they determined that there was some equipment that was wrong. And about 2 in the morning, they said, boy, it's too bad you're not in Wadsworth, because they'd probably help you out. And they said, well, we actually have a facility in Wadsworth. They said, well, you need to contact them. So an email went off at 2 in the morning to Jim Gray and to the mayor. At 6 in the morning, when the mayor was going to the gym, like all of us go to the gym, right? She shot that out to Bill and I. We had a conversation. Bill contacted them. 8 o'clock, he's on site, taking a look at their equipment, and says, cancel that company that you're going to have come out and spend the day to find out what's wrong here, because I know it's that piece of equipment right there, it's shot. And you want to get that ordered, because it's probably going to take a couple days with a piece of equipment that expensive. We're talking over $20,000. But guess what? We have one of those here in Wadsworth. We can make an agreement, and we'll get that here to you. So in a couple hours, we got that piece of equipment delivered out to that business, dropped on their site. They had their electricians come out there and install and hook that up. They were back in business by the end of the day. So that to me is a good case of dedication, really what it means to be a public power community and what the City of Wadsworth Electric Department can do for all of you. Folks like employees like Dana Moore. Dana Moore is our water treatment superintendent, a long-standing employee. I know many of you, I was talking to someone earlier that knew him and went to school with him. Dana's the kind of guy that when something goes wrong at the plant, we have limited staff and people aren't available, he'll cancel his vacation. Actually, halfway through his vacation, he'll pack up the family and have them come back to Wadsworth. So I apologize to your wife, and hopefully you've made that up to them. But that shows the type of dedication that we have. Folks like Christy McElroy, you can see, Christy Babcock, you can see in the top left there. Christy is our wastewater treatment plant superintendent, and she won the F.W. Waring Award. I know everyone knows what that award means. That's presented to an individual who demonstrates a significant contribution to the field of industrial waste treatment through administration, operation, research, development, and treatment. We have a lot of employees like Christy that are high-performing out there. You may know her also from First Fridays down in City Hall. She likes to educate the community and give back with her poop cornhole game. That's fun by all. Last month she had poop sickles, if you're fortunate to get one of the 90 that she made. So please stop down and see her. Also, you may have heard last year our electric department sent a number of folks out to the Navajo Nation in the Four Corners. We had some employees that stepped up through an initiative of APPA. Those folks, there's people out there that have never had electricity. And so there's a movement to try to help them to get funding and to help them to get electricity to their homes. So 4 folks stepped up and said, I'd like to go do that. So they went out for a week, and they were fortunate to be able to do work out there, hook up 2 people, from a 75-year-old grandmother that for the first time can actually get ice and not have to go miles away to get a big block of ice, or to a child, to a 7-year-old that can have electricity to do homework at night instead of having to run off a battery-operated light. So real special for them. We had a lot of great response from the community, people saying, wow, I'm proud to live in a community that wants to do that and wants to send people there. And you know what? When we created our system 100 years ago, we had people that came and helped us. So that was really great to see. And then we have folks in our CityLink department that continually do a great job, also give back at First Fridays, but also took over the Balloons Over Wadsworth event last fall. That's going to be August 8th, I think, this year, and thousands and thousands of people come to enjoy that event, so they wanted to make sure it ran smoothly, and we had a major sponsor for that. And so they worked hard to make that event happen, as well as the safety forces. Police, fire, and EMS did a great job to make sure that that event was safe for everyone. And at this point, I was going to embarrass Matt Hiscock and say that he is the consummate public servant as well. He is a person that takes care and supports his folks, but is also out there on fires late at night or on major traffic accidents, out there in the cold, trying to give support to his folks and also communicating back to some of us. So I hope that you've had some good experiences with folks, and I hope that that continues in the future. And I'd probably be remiss if I didn't mention Ray Pearson in CityLink. He also was valuable in that event, and he's also retiring this year, and so we wish him very well in his future. And Jeremy Brooks that did a great job at CityLink as well. And then one last person, I mean, who doesn't know Drew Bixler, right? Drew Bixler, he wears many, many hats in the city. He's right now taking some video of this. He's the dog catcher. He's also out there picking up signs in the right-of-way, trying to clean up the city. So he's as dedicated as they come. So don't get me wrong, we do stumble, but we always try to pick ourselves up and try to do the best job that we can moving forward. So with that, I will pass it back to Mayor Labaugh to finish up.
Well, I'm going to do my best job to handle Matt's slides, and I'm just going to go through them quickly. He would do a much better job than I. But I don't want to slight the safety forces because, as you all well know, they are tremendous. They provide our community with great comfort and a tremendous service that we all rely upon. I just wanted to show this slide because it's very depictive as far as the activity level of the safety forces. These are the total calls that they've had for service in 2019. Can you imagine 14,000 calls for the police? That's really pretty remarkable. Fire and EMS have considerable calls as well. As a reminder, we also provide fire and EMS response to the township, to Wadsworth Township. We've had some changes in, or some additions, I should say, with our staff, and we had some retirements, but we were fortunate to bring on 3 new police officers, Officer Seiler, Ball, and McFadden. We also had some additions for our part-time fire. We had volunteer fireman Hepner, Kay, Moore, Valent, Single, and boy, was that I was going to call it a ribbon cutting, a swearing-in ceremony when you have 5 at one time. I've never had that happen before, so that was quite a day. Also pictured here is Officer Adam Incinenti. He is Officer of the Year. Many of individuals would recognize him because he is the SRO for one of the SROs for the schools. That's our school resource officer. Community engagement. You will often see our safety forces in full force out in various activities throughout the year. They're very present, and that's very purposeful. We want them to be able to connect with our community, but particularly with the youth. Here we have noted here that from Safety Town, from the First Responder, First Friday, that was a really fun activity, First Friday last year. They had the Battle of the Badges. That was the police versus the fire. I won't mention who won, but Battle of the Badges. Also here was when the Army Golden Knights were here and they did their jumps. I'm sure many of you also attend their breakfast for the firemen's breakfast. But anyways, they're out and about and very willing to do that and provide that service. Just want to make sure that everybody's aware that they do have a heavy social media presence, both fire and EMS as well as our police. They have quite a following. It's a great place to have some good resources as far as what's going on in the city, particularly what's going on in their departments, but also they give excellent information as far as safety and preparedness type information. As far as a quick look ahead as far as next year, Matt has here, vote yes, fire levy. Yes, a fire levy is on the horizon. For as long as I had remembered, we have always had an ongoing fire levy. And 5 years ago, it was decided that that would not be renewed. And so we have not had a fire levy for 5 years, which is pretty unusual for a community. Most communities have a levy that supports their fire department. We've been utilizing reserves to purchase various equipment over those years. But it's that time to look at having another fire levy to be able to bring in the revenue that's needed to support that department for capital expenditures. This is to provide funding for, I would say, scheduled engine replacements. We also have an emergency radio system that needs to be updated and to align with others in their county. We also need to look at the replacement of Station 1. That is not fitting the needs anymore for the fire, and so it's been known for some time that that needs to be replaced. So those are things that are being looked at. We have a consultant that is putting some information together to provide for the administration, but also for our council. Our council has been discussing this. In fact, they enacted some legislation to start to get the process going to see what different levels of millage would bring in, what type of revenue. But in a very near future date, they'll be making some decisions as far as the amounts for that levy. And lastly, I just want to say thank you. I thought this would be, I'd be remiss if I did not say at the end of our remarks to thank each and every one of you. You're here on behalf of, many of you own your own business, many of you are representing businesses that you work for. The business community is very, very important to the City of Wadsworth. You provide jobs, you provide services to our citizens, you provide revenue. I will say that each of you personally provide a great service to the City of Wadsworth because many of you, on your own accord, provide volunteer hours that dedicate. I've rubbed shoulders with many of you throughout the year and recognize how much time and effort you volunteer. Many of you individually or as businesses donate money to support the various nonprofits that we have throughout the community. I've said this many times before, but our community is very, very fortunate because we have so many individuals that are dedicated and care. And that's what makes Wadsworth what it is today. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you. So without any further ado, that's it.